Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Joey, and if this is the first time watching one of my videos, make sure you subscribe. That way you can see all my future videos. I'm going to be putting out a lot more prediction videos for UFC 261 this week, so make sure you check them out and let me know what you think of my predictions. Anyway, I wanted to put out a video about Khamzat Chimaev and who I think he should fight next. Khamzat Chimaev kind of came out of nowhere last year. He fought 3 times over the course of like 2 months. His last fight being the first round knockout of Gerald Meerschaert. And this guy was just on an absolute path to superstardom. He ended up getting a massive fight in Leon Edwards, who was like the number 1 or 2 ranked guy in the world at welterweight. And that fight was originally supposed to go down in December. We know what happened. It got canceled. It got rescheduled for January. That got canceled because of Khamzat being sick. Then it got rescheduled for March. Then that got canceled because Khamzat was still sick. And then there was a potential retirement announcement from Khamzat Chimaev, which blew everyone away. And then since then, supposedly he's gotten better, and he plans on returning sometime in August. He announced that earlier this week. So hopefully he'll be 100%. We don't know. I guess he won't know until he's in the cage. But hopefully he's 100%. And I wanted to pick out an opponent. Who do I think he should fight next? So first off, he originally had the Leon Edwards fight. And I think the reason the UFC gave him that Leon Edwards fight is because they wanted, with all the attention that Khamzat Chimaev was getting, the UFC wanted to give him a worthy enough opponent where if Khamzat won, they were going to give him a title shot next. If he were to fight Leon Edwards in December or January or March, whenever it was scheduled, if one of those fights would have actually happened and he would have beat Leon Edwards, they would have undoubtedly gave him the next title shots against Kamaru Usman. So that was the UFC's plan, but obviously, Khamzat getting this virus kind of spoiled the whole UFC's plan. But now that he's going to come back supposedly in July or August, I think he said August, but other people have said July. I don't know exactly when he'll return, but anyway, later this year, probably late summer, early fall. I wanted to see who would I put him against right now. Who do I think he should fight, and what fight would I be interested as a fan? But who also do I think the UFC should match him up with? And I came up with a couple different options. I think for me as a fan, my most ideal matchup would be Khamzat Chimaev versus Michael Chiesa. I just think stylistically that'd be a super fun fight. Khamzat is known as this heavy wrestler, heavy grappler, Khabib style type guy with nasty ground and pound. But also, we've seen in the fundamentals in other fights, but also in the Gerald Meerschaert where he got the quick knockout. He looks great on the feet. We haven't seen enough evidence to really see, how good his stand up skills are. But in the Michael Chiesa fight, there might be a chance to see that because Michael Chiesa is an amazing grappler himself. I don't know if Chimaev would have been able to get him down, and I think that fight would probably play out on the feet, or we could see if Chiesa could maybe get him down. But I think that fight would mostly be two grapplers. They would cancel each other out, and the fight would be majority contested on the feet, and we could see what kind of skill set Khamzat has on the feet. Michael Chiesa, again, isn't that great of a striker, but also he is the number 7 ranked guy. So if Khamzat could get by Chiesa, we could then see him jump into a potential top 5 opponent and potential number 1 contender fight. Also, Michael Chiesa deserves a big fight. And I know people have talked about in the past, oh, nobody wants to fight Khamzat Chimaev. He's unranked and blah, 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 blah. It's not a benefit. And normally that is the case. But in this case, Khamzat Chimaev is such a big name. As far as, look at his star power. Fans are gravitating towards him. The media is covering him. Obviously, it's slowed a little bit, kind of cooled off since this whole virus thing, because he's been out for so long. And the majority of the appeal was he was fighting so consistently and, his attitude towards it. And, he would fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. Has kind of cooled off a bit. But I think the Chiesa fight would be a good test for him to really see where his skill set was at, and he could potentially move into a number 1 contender fight after that. But that's my fight that I want as a fan. But if I'm the UFC, I'm going with 2 potential fights, most likely. I'm not going to go with the Chiesa fight. Khamzat, obviously, he's been out. He's been sick. We don't know how he's going to return. We don't know, what does he need, like a warm-up fight almost in a way. And I think there's two quality matchups that the UFC could do. It wouldn't necessarily be, a quote unquote warm up fight, but it'd be a little bit of a step back from like a Leon Edwards or Michael Chiesa. And that the first of that options would be a guy that he was already linked with late last year in a fight with Demian Maia. And I think that fight would be super fun because Khamzat would basically be, have to decide whether he wanted to stand up with Damian Maia, which everyone wants to stand up with Damian Maia. Damian Maia has some terrible striking, but if you take him down, his jiu-jitsu is unbelievable. His submission skills are unbelievable. So you kind of don't want to end up playing around on the ground with Damian Maia. But Damian Maia has some great takedowns of his own. It's not the greatest, but I think stylistic wise, that fight would be very fun, and it's a very winnable fight for Hamza. I mean, Damian Maia's old. He's got one foot out the door already. I think he's gonna. I don't know if he has a fight already. I'm not sure about that, but I know he's not having. He is not going to fight very many more times in the UFC. He's been around forever. He's been through so many fights, and I think that fight would be fun. And I think it'd be a easier return for Khamzat rather than some of these other tougher matchups. I mean, there's going to be no easy fight in the top 10, but I'm just thinking from the UFC's perspective. From my perspective, I want Michael Chiesa. I love that fight. But from the UFC's perspective, I think they're going to try to bring him back, ease him into competition gently. And a guy like Damian Maia, who he could just probably shrug off the takedowns and keep it on the feet and probably has the better striking, I think that's a fight that they would be willing to make. The other fight is a fight that was talked about a lot, and this guy was actually begging for the Khamzat Chimaev fight at one point in time, was Neil Magny. And I think that fight could make a lot of sense. It's not the most entertaining fight. We've seen what happened to Neil Magny in his last fight. His grappling, against super elite grapplers, he doesn't have the best takedown defense. So it's probably a fight that Khamzat can win. Has a good chance of winning. But Neil Magny's a legit guy, and he's well rounded. He's never going to be a champion, but he's kind of a guy hangs around. He's maybe the gatekeeper of the top 10, and I think that fight would be super fun for Khamzat Chimaev. And Neil Magny begged for it before they announced the Leon Edwards fight for Chimaev, and he never got it. It seemed like Chimaev didn't want it. And then after his last fight, when Neil Magny got dominated grappling wise, all of a sudden it seemed like there was a little more interest in it. And I think this will be again a matchup where they could ease Chimaev back into the mix. He gets one win, then they can give him a top 5 guy, and potentially that could be a fight that if he won that against that top 5 guy, he could get back in the championship mix. But that's basically all I have. That's who I want to see him fight against. So it's either going to be Chiesa, Damian Maia, or Neil Magny, which ironically enough, that's ranked 7, 8, and 9. I know some people are going to say Chimaev doesn't deserve this fight. He's never fought anyone ranked yet. And maybe that's true. But I kind of want to see, there's all this hype around him. He's saying all these things. He's going to be champion soon and blah, blah, blah. I want to see him just thrown into the fire. And I think these are a little bit less than throwing him into the fire. So let's see how it goes. Let me know in the comments what you think of my fight picks for him. Who would you like to see him return against? Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching.